Hello, Manchester, and welcome to another edition of Girard at Large. I am your waiting for the season to bring us colorful leaves host, Rich Girard. Thanks for tuning in. As you know, you can find us online at girardatlarge.com, and you can find us on Facebook and Twitter, also at Girard at Large, where we encourage you to like us and to follow us. Why? Well, if you haven't been, you've been missing all of the stories that I have been breaking. And boy, do I have a couple in the hopper right now that once they get published are going to blow your mind, or what's left of it after paying attention to what happened this week at the Board of Mayor and Alderman. Not many brain cells left from those of us who had to experience it. But before we get on to anything that, might be even remotely controversial, and I promise you tonight, if I had hair, it would be on fire and it would be impressive. But before we do that, we're going to introduce you to Ben Prescott. He is running for alderman in Ward 2 here in the Queen City. I am a proud resident of Ward 2, have been since 2011. So, Ben, I'm going to really put the screws to you because you're campaigning to be my alderman.
Yeah.
So,
fellow ward member here.
So, Ben, I think what we'll get started is give you the opportunity to sort of introduce yourself, who you are, why you're running, all that fun, what you do, all that fun stuff.
All right, awesome, yeah. So again, guys, I'm Ben Prescott. I'm running in Ward 2, like Rich said, and I think that really got me into politics the last 2 years, at least in the city and local level. Is I'm a homeowner, I'm also a landlord, and I just seeing the taxes and the expenses in the city go up have really been.
So you're a landlord.
Huge
How many buildings do you?
Just one. So it's kind of like a two-family, the one I live in. Yeah, really first venture into this space. So it was kind of my first place. And
hey, listen, it's sort of like the original form of affordable housing. When my wife and I first got married, we lived in a triple-decker on the west side.
Yeah.
We bought a triple-decker, we lived in the triple-decker, and the rent covered the mortgage kind of thing, and now we live in a two-family. So we're moving our way up in the world.
Eventually get to that single family.
Well, I did have a single family, but I sold it before the whole real estate market collapsed, and then I rented for a bunch of years, and then I bought a condex, and then I bought the other side of it, and so now I have a two-family.
There you go.
There you go.
That's when I was. This is my first place, so I kind of jumped into home ownership and the landlord thing right in the same thing. Not for everybody, but it's worked good so far. But at the same time, I'm seeing kind of both sides of it, like the home ownership aspect of it, and what my renters have to deal with in lieu of what I have to deal with as a landlord. Some of those expenses, the taxes going up especially, get passed on to the renter. You just have to. So all us like mom and pop. Landlords we have to pass those expenses on, and that just drives the rent up in the rest of the city. So everyone feels, whether you own or whether you rent, everyone feels these tax increases, and then the every little bit of spending we're doing more and more every year, that just translates directly to the taxes and the rent by way of that.
So you're not a huge fan of the way spending and taxes have increased over the last couple years?
Yeah. I mean, eight years since I've owned, and I've seen it go up many thousands of dollars.
Yeah. So do you remember what your tax bill was when you bought and what it is now?
It was under $6 when I bought in 2017.
Yeah.
And now it's I think it's over $8 now.
Over 8. So you've seen that's what
2 to 25, somewhere in that range.
So you've seen about a 30% increase.
At least,
your tax has gone up at least a third. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm kind of in a similar boat. All right, so you look like a whippersnapper to me. You look like a young guy. I had hair that good when I was your age. How old are you?
35.
So you're 35. Oh, you're in your mid. I'd started losing it by my mid-30s.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd been married for a handful of years. I think I had 3 kids by then.
I always tell people it's the kids thing that it makes you look old. I don't have any of those, so it's that's what makes you turn gray and lose your hair.
So you're 35. What do you do professionally?
I'm a systems engineer in cybersecurity. So basically, what that translates to is I'm kind of I got half a foot in sales, half a foot in the technical world. I'm sort of a consultant for the sales team, and I sell cybersecurity, like enterprise cybersecurity software.
So enterprise.
I'll try to
boil.
Say the
enterprise. I think Star Trek.
Enterprise meaning like large organizations, government, that type of thing.
Okay.
So basically, what I sell is think like military defense for internet, essentially in your network. So trying to help governments and enterprises defend themselves from
Can
China, Russia, those type like other entities like that.
Can you tell how good the city's cybersecurity is on its website and its just by sort of surfing from the outside?
Some things are better than what they used to be, but I mean everything from what I've seen in the government space, it always needs help. Big time, always lagging behind even smaller companies.
So you'll be asking to be on the administration committee because it's the one that deals with the IT issues
I would
in the city?
absolutely, and that's something I'm just, especially in like the line of work I'm in. I'm the type, I go along, I'm kind of doing my thing, and I just, as I'm using processes, I'll identify processes and issues as I go along. All right, we need to fix that. We need to fix that. So that's kind of my goal. Beyond that type of thing,
So
help us improve that.
Why should the citizens of Manchester care about the city's website and cybersecurity and how they interface with it? Are they at risk? Is the information that the city has on them at risk? What's the liability to the citizens?
Yeah, so a lot of things are public record that anybody can go in and get, like your property deeds and that type of thing, and property taxes. But there's a lot of private information that the city holds on us, and believe it or not, municipalities like Manchester or the smaller towns are a target for international and even just like cartel type threat actors. So they want to steal that information because the more information they have on you, the easier it is for them to scam you or take advantage or whatever it is. So it's a target, and it's a big deal in this day and age. There's no target too small for the threat actors in this day and age.
Okay,
Yep.
so
it's important.
You're going to have a focus on the city's internet and network systems to make sure that they're secure.
Absolutely. Yep.
You are very focused on spending and taxes. So do you have any examples of things that you would like to see change, or areas where you think maybe the city could be doing better?
Yeah, I'd say just overall transparency on like what we're spending on, because like people. I think a lot of times are focused on the federal level, and they hear numbers like millions and billions of dollars get thrown out there. So when you hear a small number like 500,000 or $1 million, $1.5 million, it doesn't sound as big compared to that context. But every bit matters and translates directly to our taxes. $1 million or $2 million being spent could be another $50 or whatever out of your paycheck. So I think overall transparency, just looking at trying to do kind of like a Doge type attempt to the city, get an auditor in place to check those, make sure we're spending efficiently in every department.
So I presume you've been going out there doing some door to door.
Absolutely. Yep.
What neighborhoods have you been to? What neighborhoods do you still have yet to get into? And what are you hearing from people on their doorstep?
Yeah, so a large portion of where I've been at so far this election cycle, I went all over last year. I ran for state rep.
And you came within, what, 12 votes or something like that?
It was 36. After a recount, it was 36. So it was really
What
close.
was it before the recount?
38.
Oh, okay. So you picked up a
We got
couple
two
votes.
back.
All right.
And that was a really interesting process.
Yeah, well, Ward 2 is not exactly a Republican ward.
It's not. It's definitely.
So for you to come within,
left-leaning.
36 votes
Yep.
of knocking off two pretty well entrenched Democrats,
Yep.
it's pretty good.
It was pretty close, yeah. So this election, I've been around mainly what I like to call the lower part of the ward, like our neighborhoods, the street, the tree streets, the tree streets, and the lower part of the hill going up. Yep. And then so last party to hit is probably around like the Wellington Hill area.
Okay. So what are you hearing from people? Because I know if you're knocking on doors, well, I'll bring this up later. So what are you hearing from people?
I mean, I'm hearing a lot about the schools, actually. So in particular, the spending and a lot of the agenda that they're seeing pushed outside of academics to the students.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So you mean people aren't into the wheel of power and privilege?
They are not.
They're not into history teachers that are, literally singing and dancing for joy at the assassination of Charlie Kirk?
They are not. They are not.
Well, I'll tell you.
It upsets people.
I've had over 50,000 people come to my website and read those articles.
Wow.
People are upset.
Wow.
So you're hearing about the schools now. Of course, when people, if Jim O'Connell's hearing about the schools,
Yep.
another infamous Ward 2 resident, if Jim O'Connell's hearing about the schools, he's hearing about how they're underfunded and how they're marvelous and how they'd be better if we could just spend another $30 million a year. Is that what you're hearing? What are you hearing people say? Are they talking about funding, or are they just talking about the crazy crap that's happening?
It's kind of a mix. So like I've heard people, like I said, it's people talking about both aspects of it. Like and that's something I'm trying to bring awareness to, is like the fact that how big of a chunk the city's budget is the schools are of the city's budget.
So what's your takeaway from what people are saying to you about, on the doorstep about the schools?
My takeaway is people want better results for the money we're spending now, instead of just throwing money at it and hoping for the best. It's how we're spending the money, not the money that we're not spending on it yet. Right.
So if you've been down in my neighborhood, and I'm pretty sure you have, because I got a flyer on my door for you and for Melody
Smith.
Melody Smith, who's running for school board.
Yeah, we do a lot together on the campaign trail.
You got to be hearing about the whole sober home thing.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Because in my neighborhood, where my neighborhood has been assaulted by sober homes and homes for, just every sort of like, and I don't want to call them. I'm not gonna say that they're the island of misfit toys, but for every possible sort of thing that you could have a specialty home for, I can't swing a dead cat and let it go in my neighborhood without hitting one or two of them. And we've taken the city to court. It's we've fought these things at the zoning board. We've had some success, and we've had some. We've been on. What are you hearing from people about these things, if anything, and what are your thoughts as a guy running for alderman about the proliferation of these things?
Yeah, it's definitely a concern for a lot of people, especially like you said, they pop up next door, and
and you don't know until an ambulance shows up with a fire truck because there's been an overdose.
They bring in a lot of issues, and my understanding too is that the way they're being operated, they're not even just dealing necessarily in Manchester. They're reaching out into other communities.
Oh no, they're definitely
importing.
Yeah,
they're importing a lot more of the problem.
I can tell you, I've lost count of the number of out-of-state license plates that are on the cars, or that have been on the cars. At the sober home across the street from my house. And they're from Maine, and they're from Vermont, and they're from Massachusetts, they're from Maryland, they're from all over Hell's Half Acre.
And just like any low barrier type of solution, I mean, we had that Save Station project from like a couple years ago. Very low barrier, turning our fire stations into essentially like response units for people overdosing, whatever. The higher the barrier, the more there is incentive and accountability for people to actually want to get better. The lower the barrier, the more the free services, the more you're going to increase the problem in your municipality, because you're bringing in the people are going to come to you for the low barrier free service.
Let me give you something that the sober home operator said to the zoning board when my neighborhood was challenging their right to exist. They took a 3-bedroom, bath and a half house, and they had 11 people living there. And under question,
I own one of my apartment is a 3-bedroom, one bath apartment.
Yeah. Can you imagine 11 people living in there?
I would not want
11 unrelated adults. Okay. So when they were questioned by members of the zoning board about turnover and how many people they admitted that there could be as many as 100 people coming through that place in a year. And that at a minimum there were 2 to 3 new residents every month. So your best case scenario is 24 to 36 people, new people, will be coming in, which means 24 to 36 people will be coming. And why is that?
That's
because
a lot
are 24 to 36 people walking out of there clean and sober and where do they end up when they're not there?
They're now back on the streets of Manchester, where they weren't before. They were wherever they were before.
Instead of coming from Lawrence and Lowell and a variety. Of course, now you're running against Dan Goonan, former fire chief, obviously well known in the city. Ran for alderman at large a couple of years ago. Was derailed on that bid was derailed because of what was happening at the time, with there being charges of sexual harassment in the fire department administrative offices, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the things one of the reasons why I believe we have this problem with the sober homes in Manchester was when he was fire chief, he admitted publicly that he knew of at least 60 of them operating in the city without permit in neighborhoods that shouldn't be there, completely unregulated. And he took it upon himself to say, you know what, these people deserve to live, deserve to have a chance at recovery. And as a result, he chose, as the fire department, chief
Yep.
to not enforce the life safety codes that prohibited what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, if you are the alderman from Ward 2, what do you hope to accomplish? What will you do to address these business enterprises that are completely turning neighborhoods in the city, across the city? By the way, I'm told by sources in the know that there are now at least 120 of those things operating
similar to
across
a
the
number
city.
I heard recently, yeah.
What will you do as an alderman to get a handle on this?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit on it with the zoning aspect of it. That needs to be enforced, and those, especially like the fire zoning.
The life safety codes.
Those life safety codes are in place for a reason. There's occupancy codes in place for a reason. You have a fire or something, you're trying to get people out quick. Like it has to be zoned for that amount of people in there. And if there's things that we need to adjust and make more strict in place, to put in place, then I'd be looking at that and trying to tighten those up so that these loopholes are getting closed.
Well, I'll tell you what, one thing you should look at is when the mayor, whoever the mayor may be, nominates someone to be on the zoning board or the planning board, you should absolutely have questions that you ask of them about what their view is of their role, because many of them don't understand the role, especially on the zoning board. And what their predisposition is in dealing with these issues. Because if you've ever watched a zoning board hearing, you know that they don't understand what their job is. We have a housing problem and we want to help take care of that. Sure, we'll let you build 51 apartments where 15 are allowed.
You need to have qualified people on that for sure. Vetted and qualified. And I'm also of the opinion too, like there's been a lot of talk in about department heads and how departments are operating, and kind of the gray area, if you will, of
You mean like the health department saying it by its own policy decided not to enforce part of the ordinance?
That may be one of them.
And the fire department saying, we're not going to enforce the life safety code because we don't think it's right.
I think the alderman and the mayor have the authority to change the statutes in the city. Just like a legislator in the state level has the authority. If a law is not working, or there's too much ambiguity, or there's loopholes in it, you close the loopholes in the law. I think the simple answer is for some of these is close the loophole in the law. So that way it makes it more specific for the departments that are executing the law, and it protects people on the other end of it from abuse of power, and it protects the department heads. It protects the people in the department executing. Now they have a more stricter guideline to follow, that now they don't have as much gray area placed on top of them.
I'll wrap up with this. You decided to run for alderman. You told us a little bit why at the beginning of the interview. What do you view the role of, what is the job of an alderman? What is the role of an alderman in this city? How do you explain it?
I think the role of the alderman is to represent your neighborhood, represent we call it a ward, and just like other levels of government, we don't necessarily we're not a pure democracy where everything comes to a vote on a ballot. You have a representative, and they are your voice in your government, and that's what the alderman is for the city. We're there to run the city on behalf of the people, and that includes all the departments within that city. And if the people have an issue, you're the representative to deal with it and to fix it and to operate it. So it's kind of a legislative role and in a way an executive role at the same time. You kind of both roles.
Gotcha. Ben, if people want to learn more about you or your campaign, or they might have a question for you, they might want to put up a sign. Help you distribute literature, whatever it is, how do people get a hold of you?
Hit my Facebook page, facebook.com/Prescott for Manchester, 4 being the number 4. And you can hit me up there, message me there. My phone number and my email address are both there as well. So you can reach out to me anyway there. All
right, that's Prescott for Manchester, the number 4 on Facebook, to get a hold of Ben Prescott, candidate for Alderman in Ward 2. Ben, thank you for joining us here.
Yeah, appreciate it, Rich. Thank you.
On Girard at Large.
Appreciate
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with the rest of the show. Stay tuned. You really won't want to miss this one. And we're back, and I want to thank Ben Prescott for joining us here on the Girard at Large television show. We will be bringing you more candidates between now and the election. They are being scheduled as we speak, so if you want to hear from some of the new faces that are running for alderman and school board here in the city, be sure to tune in at Girard at Large. All right, so we're going to get to the top of our show now. We're going to do some pictures. I want to do, of course, our first and foremost, Jim O'Connell finally came in to do a live show last week, and it seems that he still cannot find the parking lot that's only about 100 feet away from the building. I will give him credit, though, even though he's about 3 feet off the curb, he did leave adequate space for people to actually roll their wheelchairs up onto the sidewalk. And so Jim O'Connell, not quite fully exercising his privilege as a, school board member, liberal, white guy, middle-aged, whatever. He is, of course, we could all use a little more exercise, so maybe he should think about that. But why he's got to park where there is no parking space, I don't know, but at least he's not blocking the handicap ramp anymore. Did I send you any homeless pictures, B?
You did not.
You sure?
I have one that looks kind of homeless, but it's not, and I have Mint Jelly.
Well, let's put that one that you think looks like it's homeless, but it's not. Oh, yeah. We'll bring that one back. Who is that? Well, maybe we'll do a call-in, 603-698-3233. Who is that with the Black Lives Matter t-shirt on? All right. Okay. What I want to do, I guess what I'll do, I'll start here with, well, first I want to give a shout out to the family of Fred Harris. Fred passed away last week. For those of you who don't know Fred, he is one of what I would call the silent giants of the city of Manchester. Whether it was Riverfest or Crime Line or God knows any number of other civic endeavors, Fred Harris was integrally interwoven into our community. He was a successful business guy who was... if you needed an event organized, no matter how big or how small, Fred Harris was a go-to, and he gave endlessly and tirelessly to this city. I was privileged and proud to know him and call him a friend, and sadly he passed away, albeit at the age of 89, so Fred had a good long run. But October 16th, his wake and funeral that morning will be held at St. Mary's Parish, where he was a parishioner. But we want to send our condolences and blessings to the family of Fred Harris. All right, so why don't we, since we just interviewed Ben, why don't we do this? Why don't we bring the homeless guy back up on I do want to do the last one, the reminder, before we get to before we get to the whatchamacallit, the homeless guy, the event, the last one I sent you. There we go. You might recall we had a lady named Deb Rue on the show probably 3 weeks ago now, maybe 4. But she's leading a trip to the Forefathers Monument in Plymouth, Massachusetts on October 18th. I'm going to give you a moment, if you've got your phones, to get to your television and scan that screenshot, which will provide scan that QR code in the lower left-hand corner. It's a free trip. It's going to give you the history of this unbelievable monument, which, if I remember correctly, she told us was the largest granite monument in the country, dedicated to our founding fathers at Plymouth Rock. So we want to bring that to your attention. I'll try to post some information about this under the Facebook Live feed that I'm doing, so that you'll have the link there. But we wanted to bring that up. All right, bring the homeless guy up. It's not really a homeless guy, it's Jason Bonilla. Last week, you may recall, we brought you pictures of Jason Bonilla essentially carrying the anti-police lines, talking about people who look like him shouldn't be in cages. I reminded him that he's at least he's more white in appearance than I am. And he was protesting, stopping murderous police. No, leave that up. Murderous police. He was on a rampage against the police when he was living in Boston 5 years ago. And this brought to us by another listener or watcher of our large and loyal audience, Jason Bonilla. I'm not sure the origin of this, but in case you can't make out that shirt, it's Black Lives Matter. So Jason Bonilla, not only anti-police, not only calling for the defunding of police and God knows what else, he is also a proponent of Black Lives Matter. And at the Board of Mayor and Aldermen this past week, he showed up in the gallery with a Bad Bunny t-shirt on. Bad Bunny, of course, is the Puerto Rican musician who will be doing the halftime show at the Super Bowl, which has annoyed a whole lot of people, not only because he refuses to speak English and does all of his music in Spanish, which is fine. I get he's a big Latino pop star or whatever kind of music it is he does. He likes to cross-dress, by the way. He recently was pictured in white wedding dresses for a magazine spread that he did. But he's virulently anti-President Trump. He doesn't believe, he believes in open borders. He doesn't believe the people that are being removed from the country, criminals that they are, should be removed from the country. And he has openly refused to do concerts in the United States of America because he's afraid that ICE will raid his performances and deport his audience. So why am I bringing this up about Jason Bonilla? Why does it matter? Because, you know, a guy who campaigns around the city. By the way, I happen to know people in Ward 5 who are of Spanish descent who have made a point of letting me know that Jason Bonilla just shows up on their doorstep and starts speaking to them in Spanish. So he seems to have a campaign that is designed to bring people, whether they're new to the ward or to the city or they've been around for a bit. He seems to be running a campaign as an Hispanic to Hispanics, which means I guess the rest of you don't really matter, but that's why I'm bringing up all of these pictures that people are sending me and keep them coming about Jason Bonilla, because what it does is it shows that he is in fact the radical ideologue that he proved himself to be when he was on the school board. And someone who's going to campaign around, talk to you about, police being inherently racist, who pushes policies at the school board that are in fact racist, and who is going to promote Black Lives Matter, which is not only a racist organization, but a Marxist one as well. And I wonder whether or not he approves of all of these leaders of the Black Lives Matter movement who have now been caught using money that's been extorted from all of the companies that they blackmailed to get money out of, lest they be protested by Black Lives Matter, buying themselves multi-million-dollar homes in gated communities across the country. Their website is openly Marxist, where they talk about the disintegration of the nuclear family. And now he's out there, a proponent of Bad Bunny, and he thinks it's funny. So here's a guy who's got an extreme woke leftist, and I would say, honestly, racist point of view on things, where everything is viewed through the lens of race. Everything. There is no individual. There's no individuality, okay? And maybe, like I said, I've talked to this guy one-on-one, and I'm pretty hard to fool, and I get the sense that he listens even though he doesn't change his mind. It takes a while for seeds that are planted, if they're planted, to sprout. Who knows? Are they on the hard-packed soil? Are they in the rocks? Or are they on the fertile ground? Are they with the weeds? We don't know. Only time will tell. But, clearly he's got an orthodoxy to him that doesn't really respond to what's happening in your neighborhood or in this city, because he's going to view it through that prism, and he's going to be an advocate for that point of view. And, that's why I'm convinced he supported the unnecessary construction of Beach Street School, because Beach Street School was picked not because it was a school that desperately needed repairs. In fact, if you looked at the 2021 facility study, which I've referenced ad nauseum on this show, Beach Street School was nowhere near the worst school in this city. Gosler Park and Smith Road School were far worse off, as was Hallsville, but Hallsville was shut down. Wilson School wasn't in great shape, and there isn't anybody who's going to argue that. But the last neighborhood school we had in this city, and by neighborhood school I mean a school where the overwhelming majority of kids walked to, And that's important when you have a constituency like Wilson School had, where a lot of parents don't have transportation because they can't afford vehicles, where the last neighborhood school was closed and Beach Street School is going to be closed, and a new school is being built, not because Beach Street School was a train wreck. Frankly, it wasn't. It was one of the better buildings in this city. Oh my God, there were classrooms that didn't have windows. Well, guess what? It's the same layout, the same building as Parker Varney and Highland Goffs Falls. Do those kids not deserve windows? I don't know. Although maybe there isn't that window problem because there were classrooms in the basement of, not in the basement. You know, when I went to the Brown School, the library was in the basement. So were the bathrooms. Anyway, but it was all because of the demographic of Beach Street and Wilson schools. They wanted to give those poor, brown, refugee kids a shiny new building to show how much they cared. What they could have done and what they should have done is spent a fraction of the money, because the 2021 study identified exactly what needed to be done to make those buildings what they needed to be for the populations that they served at a fraction of the cost. They could have kept a vital neighborhood school open at Wilson, and they could have done what needed to be done at Beach, which candidly really wasn't that much. And they could have done it instead of for $85, probably going to be $92 million by the time it's all done, and that doesn't count the interest cost. They could have done it for $11 million, okay? Foolish. What they're spending on the Beach Street School, they literally could have renovated to the standards identified by the 2021 study. Every single school building in this city. And it wouldn't take 30 years to do it, and it wouldn't take $1 billion+ to get it done, like the plan they're pursuing now, okay? And that's just the way it is. So Bonilla, okay, it pains me to say it because he's a likable guy, but he's also an ideological demagogue. And he is not going to represent the people of Ward 5. He's going to represent the people wherever they are that have his point of view on how government should be a cudgel that will implement policies that will continue this Marxist parade of social issues where, based solely on your skin color, your religion, your sex, your orientation, or anything else, you are either a villain or you're a victim. You are either an oppressor or you're oppressed. And there is only divide and conquer. There is only group and label. There is no individuality in any of this stuff, and that's the way it works. And that's what he's doing. So Bonilla is a problem because he represents an ideological. I'm not even sure how to characterize it, but an ideological poison that simply can't be worked with. And he should be made to answer questions about his anti-police, pro-Black Lives Matter, which, by the way, is anti-police, right? Wasn't it 5 police officers that were shot and killed by Black Lives Matter in Dallas during the whole Colin Kaepernick stupidity? I don't know. I don't know. He's one of these people who doesn't seem terribly grateful that this country took his parents, because he calls himself a first-generation El Salvadoran American, doesn't seem too grateful for the opportunity that this country gave his family, and only seems to find reasons to run it down. And I don't think that's good for the city. So people are sending me this stuff. If they send me anything on any candidate, I'm happy to give it the time of day. But Ward 5, be careful what you do, because on the other side of this, you have somebody who's proven herself to be very good representative of the people in Kathy Paquette. She is distinguished herself really on the Criminal Justice Committee, where she has been an absolute guardian of the city of Manchester, and herself a victim of violence, has been a heroic despite what Jim O'Connell says about her on Facebook, has been a heroic advocate for victims' rights and for women's safety in particular. So the difference in Ward 5 couldn't be more clear. All right, so speaking of differences, as we take a look around the city, we got to wonder what's going on. Of course, Jay Ruais continues to fill our mailbox with stuff like this. He's breaking through the partisan divide. Jay Ruais, Manchester's unifying leader. Bipartisan leadership makes the difference. Manchester ranked number 3 best run city in the United States. Tell me, Jay Ruais, in the year and a half you've been in office, what changes have you made that have improved the management of the city of Manchester that you would take credit for this? What changes have you made? What have you done that's made Manchester the hottest housing market in America? As a result, yeah, okay, we'll give you credit for taking 100,000 pounds worth of trash. Protected the tax cap and delivered 2 budgets well under the cap. We've been over that, right? He didn't. He broke the tax cap and he lied about it, which is why he can't defend himself against the school district that says, well, you should have given us everything under the tax cap that we could have gotten under the tax cap. Because they lied about that. Implemented a comprehensive response to homelessness that is delivering results. Really, what did he do that was any different than what Joyce Craig did? And what results are we talking about? All-day coffee? I don't know. But not that long ago, just 2 years ago, zoom in on this for me, B. Well, he's now campaigning as a bipartisan leader. Look at that. In 2023, he was, oh no, keep it zoomed in. Don't zoom out. I'll tell you when to zoom out. Republican. See, right there, Republican. Oh, look, here's another one. Right up there. Can you zoom in on that? It says Republican. Uh-oh, that's not going to work. Oh, wait a minute. Here's another one from Jay Ruais. Back in the day when he was campaigning as a Republican. How about that? So I guess he's no longer campaigning as a Republican, but if we want to review the record and see what he's done to break through the partisan divide, it's really easy. He sided with Democrats. He sided with Democrats when he sided with Democrats when they torpedoed the zero tax hike budget that Alderman Chrissy Cantor was poised to present 2 years ago. He sided with Democrats when it came to spending $80 million on the Beach Street School. That project could have been stopped. And he says, oh, well, if we didn't do that, we had no other alternatives. Yes, you did. And Mr. Mayor, I personally told you about those alternatives in appearances before the Board of Mayor and Aldermen on this show, which I know your lackeys monitor, and through the newspaper, which I know you read. It was the 2021 study. There were absolutely alternatives to building a brand new Beach Street School. And so, the little games that you played to make it look like you were really digging in and trying to, get to the bottom of the question, and then towing the school board's line. Well, it'll be $50 million to fix Wilson Elementary School. No, wrong. That was literally 10 times the amount that the 2021 study said needed to be spent to get that school, up to standard. 10 times. So there's no critical thinking there. The other area where he torpedoed Republicans was this whole Picklegate thing. Let's talk about this whole Picklegate thing, shall we? By the way, B, let's have the picture of the preserves. There we go. I want you to read this. This is at Sunnycrest Farm in Londonderry. Mint jelly. This product is exempt from New Hampshire licensing and inspection. There's another one of those that I sent you. Strawberry basil jam. That looked really yummy. This product is exempt from New Hampshire licensing and inspection. So I was talking to the people down there. I said, why is this licensed from New Hampshire? Why is this not subject to New Hampshire licensing and inspection? And here's the one that I bought because I really like cherry. So I got cherry jelly. I'm really excited to try this. Oh, guess what it says? This product is exempt from New Hampshire licensing and inspection. Well, the supplier to this farm of this stuff, who is in Dunbarton, makes this stuff at her house. and it's exempt from inspection by the state of New Hampshire. So I said, do you folks here at the farm also produce your own stuff? Yes, we do. And they showed me. And guess what? It is exempt from New Hampshire inspection and licensing. But here in Manchester, despite the fact that I have now on multiple occasions presented the fact that there is an exemption for people who did what Daniel Mowry and Ward 6 did, people casually engaged in activity. And I presented this at the Board of Mayor and Aldermen again on Tuesday night. The city of Manchester is torturing residents who pickle, can, and otherwise distribute, which I did. By the way, I just want you to know that I brought more pickled peppers in, and I gave them to and I informed Chris that one of the reasons, Chris Herbert, who does the show before me, that one of the reasons why I was giving them to him is, I told him, you're helping me break the law because you're accepting the pickles that I am distributing, the pickled peppers that I am distributing, which he says are delicious, by the way, here in the city, violating the ordinance. So Picklegate, here's the thing I'm going to say about Picklegate, okay? And I got a bunch of updates on other stuff, so stay with me on this. The thing about Picklegate is this. Nobody is paying attention to what the health department actually did and didn't do. Because Joe Levasseur became such an issue, he became such a focus of what happened that nobody is paying attention to what the health department actually did or didn't do. Nobody is answering the question as to why they are even pursuing this, given the exemption that I found in the city ordinances. It's section 110.08B, which basically says, it doesn't say children, but it says something like adolescents, and people engaged in casual activity. And as I said at the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, somebody who takes what comes out of his garden and pickles it once a year is involved in casual activity. The ordinance doesn't apply, okay? So nobody's looking at why that exception wasn't followed. Nobody's looking at why the department didn't do an investigation before they issued the cease and desist letter. Nobody's looking at why Anna Thomas, the director of public health, sent an email to all of the staff involved in this investigation with links to articles that dirtied up, shall we say, Daniel Mowry, and linked him to now state senator, then candidate for alderman, Victoria Sullivan. What was the purpose of that? Nobody has taken a look at any of these or any other issues. Nobody has taken a look. I mean, somebody came and spoke at the board, and I don't have my notes. I forgot his name, but he was right. He was talking about abuses of department heads. Nobody said anything when Alan Oldenburg, the chief of police, called for a boycott of a local coffee shop because they employed somebody who dared come to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and speak ill of his police department. And after the kid was fired, and believe me, I am no fan of what he had to say. He was one of these pro-Palestine people. I didn't like anything that he had to say, but after he got fired by the coffee shop because the police chief called for a boycott of his business, the police chief sent out an email saying, oh, well, this is a wonderful place for us to go get coffee again. Everything's all good. Nobody called Police Chief Alan Oldenburg out for that. Nobody's calling Anna Thomas out for this. Nobody called the health department out when they did not advise the public of a neurovirus outbreak at the back room where 18 people were sickened and one was killed by the deadly foodborne virus. Oh, there was no day. No, we're going to shut down the pickle guy with a cease and desist letter, and we're not going to shut down the Puritan back room until we determine what the cause of the outbreak of the neurovirus was and whether or not conditions. Well, by the way, why is Hillside open? There was a parent who is so frustrated at the lack of response she's gotten from the school administration, the school district administration, and the school board. She went to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to beg for help with the cockroach problem at Hillside, which, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I ran out of time. There are now roaches at Weston Elementary School. So if you're in Ward 6 and you send your kids, or Ward 4 and you send your kids to Weston Elementary School, they have cockroaches too. And according to this parent, who I haven't yet called, but I did get her number and I'm going to, there are apparently multiple other schools in the district that are dealing with cockroaches. And she was very specific about these roaches being in the kitchen. Now, Anna Thomas tells me that, gee, if this were a restaurant, as long as their pest management protocols were in place and satisfactory, they would have concerns, but they wouldn't shut it down. I said, really? Do you really? Okay, so now you know that it's okay for restaurants in the city of Manchester to have massive cockroach infestations, as long as there are proper pest management protocols in place and being actively pursued. This is the crazy stuff that's hot. So nobody is looking into. Nobody's looking into this. Nobody's asking questions about why did she see fit to give the mayor a heads up. Why would she give the mayor a heads up on any citizen that is getting a cease and desist letter? Why? Why were they trying to hold this meeting in non-public session? As I've said on this show, as I wrote in an article, as I've exposed, it was never about Anna Thomas. It was about Joe Levasseur. And what did the Board of Mayor and Aldermen do? Well, those motions that I told you were going to be there, that were going to censor speech, they passed. So now the city solicitor and the city clerk are going to get together and they're going to draft rules that incorporate the spirit of the workplace harassment and violence protocols for employees into the rules of conduct for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Why do that? They also, of course, they also condemned personal attacks and innuendo and all this other stuff, and passed a resolution saying, hey, Anna Thomas is wonderful. She's great. We love the department and all they do to keep us healthy and safe. Really? Really? How does that work? How does that work with what we know is good? Why isn't anybody asking by what authority they got to, wave a magic wand and just say, you know what, the ordinance applies to bake sales, but we're just not going to enforce it. I went back and I watched that meeting on September 2nd. It blew my mind that they were sitting there saying, well, we're not going to pursue that. We don't go looking for that. Really? Really? How does that work? How does that work? You have a department telling you that they passed a policy. Of course, it's not in writing because Troy Micklon, candidate for Alderman in Ward 9, did a right to know request and discovered that the policy they talked about in that meeting was not written down. Oh, so it's completely and totally random. But even if it was written down, by what authority do you have to decide on your own you're not going to enforce an ordinance? Dan Goonan did that as the fire chief, and thanks to it, we've got 120 different illegally operating sober facilities in neighborhoods throughout this city. You don't think that hurts? You don't think that's adding to your homeless problem? You don't think that's drawing drug dealers and addicts to this city? It's a problem that compounds on itself. So why isn't anybody asking these questions? I'll tell you why, because Levasseur made it a circus. It all became about Levasseur. It all became about Levasseur, and he turned it into a crap storm again, when he decided he was going to attack Tony Sapienza, who didn't say anything about Joe Levasseur in that meeting, but Levasseur just attacked him. And once Levasseur attacked him, the whole thing went to hell in a handbasket. The whole thing just became a circus. And of course, he's saying, you're not going to let me ask my questions. You're shutting me down. You literally had aldermen yelling at the other side of the table. The mayor didn't know what the hell to do. The mayor tried to shut him off and cut him off. And to the degree that he's like, you guys don't let me ask your questions, he's right. But he provoked that reaction. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but he provoked it. And, at some point, there's got to be a line drawn. And this is what's at play here. Okay, so here's the skinny on what went down. There was a deal cut with the Democrats. The Democrats want him silenced. Why else would Ray Buckley, the chairman of the state Democratic Party, and Donna Soucy, his sidekick, among other Democrat officials from the state party, why would they be in the audience of the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting on Tuesday night? Tell me. Why would they be there? There was nothing on the agenda that involved them or was even of remote interest to them, except the whole chairmanship thing with Joe Levasseur. That was it. So there were 3 Republicans that voted for Norm Vincent, the alderman from Ward 11, the freshman who's been in office for a year and a half. 3 Republicans who voted for him, along with every Democrat. Pat Long, Democrat, who ran for board chairman at the beginning of the year and lost to Levasseur because in the only Republican act that Jay Ruais has undertaken since he's become mayor, he voted for Levasseur to be the chairman. Okay? So while he's doing all of this bipartisan campaigning stuff, guys like Ross Terrio in Ward 7 who need Republicans to come out and vote for him. What is the Republican reason to come out and vote? If you're a fiscal conservative, if you believed Jay Ruais was going to cut your taxes, I went through all of that stuff last week, and you voted for him and he gave you bigger tax hikes in the last 2 years than Joyce Craig gave in any of her years, than Ted Gatsas gave us in any of his years. I have to go all the way back to Bob Baines to get to tax hikes the size of the ones that this Board of Mayor and Aldermen gave us under Republican leadership. Right? So this whole bipartisan, you would think that he's a shoo-in for re-election. He would campaign proudly as a Republican, that he would try to cobble some coattails and pull Republicans to the polls to vote for him and the other Republicans on the ballot. He has not issued one that I know of, that I've seen, and I get his press releases. I've not seen him endorse one Republican candidate. I've seen pictures from time to time of him going door to door with some of them. That's nice. So for the 20, 30 people they might talk to in a round of door to door, they know, hey, the mayor's here with so-and-so. Where are the flyers going out to the wards to build a slate for the Republican candidates? They're not there. So you had Vincent, Kelly Thomas, and Chris Morgan join with the Democrats to put Vincent in as chairman. And you'll never guess what the 3 Republicans were who voted for these motions to effectively start the process of developing a framework. And Jay Ruais and others like Kelly Thomas are telling people, oh, well, people don't understand what we voted for. Yeah, we do. There'd be no reason for you to refer anything to committee or to the solicitor or to the clerk to develop something if you weren't planning on voting for it. True, we don't exactly know what the wording is going to look like, but do we need to? We know that they are going to embark on trying to control what elected officials are allowed to say. And they're going to make it so that any department head, and by the way, let's not lose sight of the fact that one of the reasons why we've got this furor over Picklegate is because Anna Thomas told people on the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and the mayor himself that she felt like she was being harassed by Joe Levasseur because of the pickle memes that he was putting up on Facebook. So we're going to do something that's going to make it more possible, if not invite department heads who don't like what elected officials say about them, either in the chamber, on a television show, on social media, or anywhere else, where they could come and say, he's harassing me. Can you imagine if Chrissy Cantor decided to really push it at Chief Maher over his sanctuary police policies here in the city of Manchester, and the outrageous things that he had to say about why they weren't working with ICE and a bunch of other stuff? You imagine if you say, hey, that's harassing me in the conduct of my job, and now Chrissy Cantor is going to be the subject of some sanction by the Board of Aldermen? Voters get to decide whether or not what their elected officials say is over the top. Not the rival politicians, not the people who are subject to their authority, to their oversight, not the people who are there to question and hold them accountable. So in exchange for putting Vincent in as the chairman in this great show of bipartisanship, you had Kelly Thomas, Norm Vincent, and Chris Morgan voting to proceed with these actions that are going to restrict speech. That was the deal. That was the deal. Pat Long issued some kind of statement, which I didn't get, but I read about it somewhere. I don't even remember where. Issued some kind of statement saying, well, you know, making it look like they were honoring the fact that Republicans won. Well, did Republicans win? I don't know. You have 7 Republican aldermen. You have 7 Democratic aldermen. Did Republicans win a majority? You know, so he wanted to respect it. He didn't want to respect it when he was running for chairman, so what's changed? So, yes, this was about getting Joe Levasseur. Okay? This was about deposing him as chairman, and it was about trying to erect controls on his speech. Meanwhile, Norm Vincent, who publicly said that the ordinance on panhandling that had been presented by Troy Micklon of Ward 9, the ordinance on panhandling that he presented at a public hearing would come before his committee. It didn't. Meanwhile, we were all expecting to have this Picklegate ordinance thing you know, at the Public Safety Committee on Tuesday, and mysteriously the Public Safety Committee, I don't know if it was never scheduled or it got canceled. I think it was never scheduled, allegedly because, well, the health department is not ready to bring the ordinance forward. And I talked to Vincent about it, and he said, well, I said, well, isn't the whole point of having it to committee get everybody's input so that it can, you know, oh, well, it's not ready yet. Okay, fine. Why not? I went back and I watched the meeting. Next month. Well, the committees typically meet once a month. So if public safety didn't meet before the last, when's it going to meet next? And when is it going to be? How much you want to bet it doesn't come until after the election? You know, it's starting to look like people are trying to stick it to Levasseur. And you know what? Joe, frankly, could have avoided all of this if instead of using some of the rhetoric that he did, he'd been a little more constructive about it. So, yeah, he invited it. It doesn't make what they're doing right, but the whole thing could have been avoided if people had just decided to be constructive about it. There was more, and I'm just going to say the hits keep coming in on school busing. So for a 4 o'clock track meet or cross-country meet, kids at Central were picked up for a 4 o'clock cross-country meet at St. Anselm College at 12:30 in the afternoon. A Central West JV game had to be canceled at Winnicott because they couldn't get the bus there in time. And oh, it looks like the Manchester Transit Authority is contracting out with Souhegan High School, the Amherst School District, to transport their students because they don't want to have anything to do with the city of Manchester. There were some other things that I didn't get to. Ed Sapienza tried to get them to adopt the Picklegate, the state's restrictions on canning. It failed with only Terrio, himself, Levasseur, and Cantor in favor. But there's more or less what's happening in your city. And Manchester school buses still are not running on time, if at all. There are legions of people on Facebook complaining about the hours their children have to wait for the bus. I am your ever humble host, Rich Girard. Thanks for tuning in. Until next week, be good, be well, don't do anything we wouldn't do. Proud to have in the audience. Sorry for running over time. We had a lot to get in. Good night.